Lieutenant Governor Newsom.
Thanks. Well, Bill, I love a good story, and you're a good storyteller, so I appreciated the presentation in the spirit of Regent Kiefer. This is important stuff. So I have a question, because I just want to verify in the spirit of, not getting too exuberant about some of these numbers. My understanding, based on this slide, and it segues into the UCPath conversation we're going to have in a moment, is that part of the procurement efficiencies also include IT procurement. And I presume that $133 million of savings that was identified in that 2013 budget addressed the cost overruns of those IT procurement, and I want to just verify that that was included in the savings, meaning in 2013 you augmented the UCPath contract over a 12-month period by increasing it over $60 million, up to $220 million from its original contract. Was that expensed in the 2013 data that you provided? And is that the net, that $133 million savings, is that net of the $60 million you expensed on that cost overrun?
The increase in the UCPath was not at all due to the Oracle or other consulting. That contract has not changed, or may have done minor. The increase in PATH is primarily to our own, the cost of our own employees and consultants based on the length of time.
But does it come in? What I'm seeing is you're capturing in the $7 billion procurement reform, you capture your IT spending. So if it's captured in here, it should be savings that's identified or increased costs that go against those efficiencies and that net savings. You're saying you saved $133 million against your expectations. Did that include this increase to the...
No, UCPath is a project, and it is expensed and capitalized separately. These are commodities and services that we are purchasing. And again, the PATH augmentation did not go. It wasn't a change in the Oracle contract. I mean, there were some small things in an upgrade.
But I guess my thing is, if we're going to send a message about our procurement and our efficiency and our capacity to operate more efficiently, and we're including in there our IT spend, I mean, how do I as a layperson, connect this data set with another data set? Because at the end of the day, it's, we've got our $20+ billion of money, $7 in procurement, and I imagine the $7 billion includes the UCPath monies, right? On an annual basis, or is that...
No, it would just be... that's a capitalized project expense.
But isn't it part of procurement reform? Isn't it fundamental to the UCPath conversation, the question of procurement? So why isn't it included in this conversation? Meaning, I want to get the whole picture, not just a slice. I don't want folks to be misled about our effectiveness in our procurement when, in fact, there's a huge defect right now that we're about to highlight in our procurement. And I want to know where that's captured in terms of our overall efficiency.
That's why we're trying to lay out PAP as a separate project that is capitalized and has operating expenses, and we can judge it on its own merit. I mean, it's not that we could have tried to bury it in here, and there would have had there would be no value in that. It's better when you have a separate project that you're trying to do to expense it separately and capitalize it separately. That's how you do in any...
So the $406 million, Nathan, that's in the IT here, that doesn't include large-scale IT procurement?
Doesn't include though.
What's the $400 million in IT? What are we doing with that? What's that?
The key thing here is on that what we're reporting is spend, and the savings that we're reporting are individual initiatives, and they're measured in 4 different ways. Reduce spend on what we've spent in the previous year on a particular IT buy. Cost avoidance, negotiation on a particular buy, and that may have some inclusion there because we may be through negotiation avoiding a higher cost, regardless of where it's necessarily coming from. We don't separate it.
If we don't separate it, then that's different. What Nathan
but the 406 IT, no. That our spend is coming out of our spend analytics and our annual spend, but it's not.
All right, I confess, and I appreciate it, and I don't want to belabor everyone's time. I'm completely confused by this, and this is significant stuff. This is important. I mean, you're talking about 400. one thing I'd like to know, and if you guys can provide this information to all of us, what's that $400 million? What's that? If it doesn't represent UCPath, then what IT projects are you scoring in this procurement reform?
There are differences. There's lots of IT commodities that you buy every year, whether it's computers or servers or whatever is needed on a campus. And then there are projects. UC Berkeley is replacing their student system. That's about an $80 million spend. Bill is involved in negotiating those contracts, but
that's not scored under this reform.
400?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that is part of that.
Yes, for instance, the student information system and the service contracts alone, there was $30 million at Irvine. That goes into that.
So what I ask, without belaboring this, you've now proven my point and concern. There's a difference of a point of view and opinion, but this goes to the core of the veracity, of our efforts here. I applaud them, but I want to actually know the real story. And what we're getting here is an argument of sort of a hybrid. And so if we can get all that data so that we can verify these numbers.
We can send you the data on all the spend, but I disagree with you on the veracity. I think with PATH particularly, it's more important to lay it out on a project basis.
What Bill just said, he said that you gave some examples of some large-scale IT that you believed not to be included here, and Bill just corrected you and said we're part of it.
That are part of the spend, but I also think it's important that those are presented separately as a project.
They're not being presented here separately.
No, but we are going to present PATH separately.
PATH is one of many large-scale IT procurements in the system, and it's interesting what's chosen to be included here and what's not, and that's my point. Because if you're looking at procurement reform, and we're about to discuss one of the great procurement disasters, and that's not my language, that was a consultant that analyzed UCPath's failure, who said it's a blank check, and I can give you the quote back in a moment, then we must, I believe, in terms of advancing the veracity of this effort and this initiative, include it in the discussion. If we're including other large-scale IT, you can't pick and choose ones that came in under budget and not include one that came in substantially or is coming in substantially.
Okay, well, I would still point out to you that the amount of the Oracle contract would not have changed substantially. The increase in the PATH expenses is all due to money that we're spending on our own employees and our own consultants. It is not for the contract with Oracle or IO or any of the other vendors.
What category would that fall under in terms of these blocks here?
That's part of project implementation.
But it's not
that's
part
of the project budget.
It's not a procurement, but fundamentally, an IT project is a procurement program.
Part of it is a procurement project, but part of it's not.
But let's get into that conversation, because this is where we have a big fundamental disagreement. It is an IT project that is procured, it's contracted, and there's you brought in-house on UCPath aspects, but they weren't originally procured, and the reason you did is because of the failure of the procurement process. So it was initiation of a process that failed to achieve your objectives because we were ill prepared in the procurement process of anticipating them. And now we brought them in-house at a huge expense that was never anticipated. For me, that's a procurement issue and should be, I think, accordingly sanctioned as such.
Okay,
our efforts to help reform.
What I would say about PATH, and we'll have a lengthy discussion about that, the shortcoming of our original approach to PATH was we did view it as a procurement. We viewed it as, you could bring in an off-the-shelf software package and put it in and streamline payroll and HR. And that was a mistake. And we acknowledged that, and we brought it in. It's fundamentally about changing, business processes.
I guess my point is, if it was originally conceived as a procurement process, why did we not include it in this report about our efficacy of our procurement reform, when in fact it actually was...
Well, the original contract is probably in the report, but it's not this ongoing project, it should not be part of it.
Yeah, let me suggest
we can segue into this,
some clarification might be helpful, and so if you could provide the Lieutenant Governor and the rest of the board just some clarification about what's in that $2 billion in traditional that is IT related, and so we can get an understanding about how PATH fits into this.
But for me, it's not, and thank you, Mr. Chair, it's not just PATH, it's about the entire presentation. It's about the veracity of, and again, I'm not indicting anyone's integrity here. I'm trying to understand what I don't understand. And we're seeing a painting that's being, picture here, but it's not not the entire picture from my perspective.
Spend analytics includes every order that goes through our system. If a purchase order is issued, then it's in our spend analytics. Regardless of fund or budget or whatnot, it's in our system. So
UCPath would be in there.
if we've done any contract,
Outside contracts would be in there.
contracts would be in
But the bulk of the spend is then in sourcing and resources in-house.
But UCPath's original procurement with Oracle, PeopleSoft, would be included in these numbers.
correct.
Correct.
That's not, Nathan, with respect, that's not what I was told a moment ago when you said it was all separate.
I apologize. I was talking
That's a
about...
profound thing, because that's not $1 million, it's not 10, it's over $100 million.
Okay,
It's serious money, so we got to get this right.
Okay, I think some clarification can be provided, but I think I'd like to move on. President Napolitano, do you want to make a comment?
No, I think it's been clarified enough.
Okay, very good.